I think JWT India is in a very strong position, actually. I think that we have a management structure and a client base that is unparalleled. I think, of course, you probably have read about some staff changes, and that obviously needs to be bedded down, and I think that we will, based on my conversations with Colvin. I also think that there are staff cost issues and motivation and incentivizing people to keep the turnover, at acceptable levels. But I think that this is really a question that any agency is facing, and JWT is lucky to have its scale and its long-term partnerships with clients. So I'm very optimistic about JWT in India. Well, I think that international markets also have a lot to learn from JWT India. I think that JWT India will be very happy to be part of and even more fully incorporated into the Asia Pacific creative community, which is something that's already started. Because I think that Asia Pacific has a very strong creative ethos that celebrates, both, the timeless standards of brand building, but with local expression. So I am quite confident that, under Colvin's leadership, India and the rest of Asia will become even closer. Well, I think it's the same as for everyone. In China, India, Brazil is huge. And I think, obviously, America and UK. And I think that what you have with JWT is a very uncommon strength in all three of these BRIC markets, okay? And how we have the right level, the right activation strategy, diversification strategy, there is a lot of opportunity for shared learnings. Getting back to your question on India, learning from China, I think one thing that we've done very successfully in China is our field marketing operation, so that we really are in a position to engage with consumers, not just digitally, but at the point of purchase. And I'm sure that we'll be working closely in the future, through a common strategic alliance with Smollen in South Africa to make this, a reality in terms of in-store engagement. Well, JWT, number one, it has a very clear point of view on what our inside JWT focus should be on, and it should be on social media and campaign-driven digital creative. And these are capabilities that need to be developed in every single office. But what we also are focusing on right now is having a collaboration framework that is very clear, which is just about to be launched, called .jwt, so that we have all of the digital assets that we currently operate from around the world, but a structured way for any market to plug into them in a structured process, okay, for how digital programs are executed. So many people don't realize that JWT has 2,000 of its 10,000 employees exclusively doing digital, but a lot of that is through companies that are not inside JWT, but acquisitions of JWT. So Digitaria in the United States, we just acquired A4A, which is a leading social network company inside China. The Casa in Brazil, which is again social networking with a very strong dashboarding capability. So our challenge is, how do we have the right development of digital capabilities inside the JWT that is campaign driven? How do we have the right acquisition strategy that is technology, platform, and social media driven? And then for everything else, how do we have an open architecture and have that be a value across all of our JWT offices, so that we have a digital point of view? And this is something, to be fair and frank, that until we had sorted through what our core identity was and recommitted to being brand idea builders, okay, that get expressed through campaign ideas, that we've been able to take a step back and say, what, we cannot be all things to all people. We have to have a center of gravity. Creatively, a lot of what India produces, unfortunately, is still inaccessible, okay, to the Western world. But I think in terms of brand building, all right, India is very strong. And I also think in terms of creativity, India is getting stronger and stronger. And I think that where India is also very strong is in processes and systems of talent management and so on. So I think the world has a lot to learn, all right, from India. And India also has a lot to learn about, entrepreneurialism from the rest of the world. Nobody knows exactly what is happening, all right, with the economy. But I personally have not seen the fruit drop from the trees yet. Okay, number one. We're, as always, budgeting conservatively. Our budgets are usually conservative in terms of how much new business we assume will be in a budget, forecasts benchmark versus year ago, or 2011. So really I think that what we're doing is we are having realistic budgeting forecasts so that we're not getting too over optimistic. But secondly, we are prioritizing, what our investment markets are and what our investment markets are for acquisition as well, all right? So we're really focusing on, the core drivers and making sure that we don't cut back, so that we'll be in a stronger position once things come out of the starting gate. Digital is obviously a trend, all right? But then, digitally led creative is very rare still, all right? Campaigns, all right? This, as television becomes prohibitively expensive, right, and you want to optimize your media mix, digitally led creative campaigns, all right, is something that any so-called 4A's agency needs to be very strong at, all right, or they're going to be missing a lot. And I also think that, again, diversification to focus on point of purchase engagement is critical. And this is especially true in the emerging markets, where the need that clients have is to manage scale, all right? And this is what ultimately any client wants from a communications partner, is not just ideas, but ideas that land in all the corners consistently. And this to me is not just a trend, but it's a business model. We are investing significantly in digital, but in a way that fits with our core competences, and we are investing very much on in-store engagement. I think the level of intellectual exchange is great, the speakers are great, the logistics are great, because the only other Indian forum experience I've had was Goa Fest, which is more of a party. This I think is really world class. So it's definitely exceeded what I expected. You can't fake it, all right? Look at what your goals are as the leader of a small advertising agency. If you just want to have, your own piece of the sky, and have a few client relationships, fine. You're free, you control your own destiny, all right? And I think that anybody talented can have his own small shop, all right? But if your goal, all right, is to compete directly, all right, with the large agencies, all right, know that what clients ultimately pay large agencies for is a steward for their brand and consistency over time and geography without regressing to the mean. And this requires full service, all right? So whereas the agencies need to evolve their full service in line with the new technological landscape, I think that the small hot shops need to also understand that there's a reason why we've stayed in business. So I think don't underestimate the challenge of long-term relationships with clients, and if you want to grow beyond a certain size, you have to have the full service that clients ultimately need, not just to feel secure, but to build their brand.